Okay, so let's see, is the audio working here, and then we can get started. Okay, seems like it's working, at least on my end. So I think we can jump into this. Okay, so welcome everyone to the July stream. Again, I said at the start of the year I would make an effort to do at least one stream every month, and then also to cover bigger news that happens in live streams as well. And I think so far I have stuck to that. We will of course be talking about San Diego Comic-Con this weekend rather than last weekend, because probably everyone like myself was a little bit stunned at what did or rather didn't happen at the con last week. And we will of course be getting into that. But first of all, I do want to talk about the good news, the really good news that came out of Comic-Con, which I think definitely was the soundtrack release. But also, just in general for this stream, we'll be talking about this, of course, the comic publishing news from the SDCC panel. I have two figures to unbox here. So I have this Katara figure from Dark Horse. And then the other figure that also came out is the similar from Dark Horse Zuko figure. So I'll open up both of these in a section of the live stream, and we can take a look at them. Probably better suited to doing them on live stream than like a specific video, especially given that there is a decent amount of stuff going on at the moment, and I really don't have a video slot for some of those merchandise things at the moment, with all the Yang Chen videos. The Republic City video took a while to put together, of course. The RPG book. And as well as that, for myself at least, I got, of course, the review copy for Azula in the Spirit Temple. So I pretty much got like 90% of the Avatar content this year all in the same month. And it's been a little bit crazy. But then after that, I will be getting into some, I think I switched to this, Avatar Generations. Just to kind of play a little bit here at the end of the stream, and also talk about some of the upcoming updates and stuff like that. Like, we have some patch notes for the update that I believe is coming tomorrow. So, you know, we'll get into all of that, but I'll just swap back to this. So, yeah, soundtrack. As you can see here, this is the full listing of the soundtrack up on Apple Music. So far, I don't believe there is any vinyl pre-order listing for the kind of physical release up yet. Again, everyone I think will know when it eventually does go live, but of course, it's a huge thing that it's happened. Finally, after all these years, it has finally happened. Now, in more recent times, I think we've basically, I think, known since Avatar Studios was announced that this was highly likely to happen. And especially for the last year, we've kind of just been waiting for the announcement, because we've basically known it's been happening, production on this for a while. But, you know, we're finally within the release window, basically, because we have one of the tracks, of course, is already available to listen to. Aang Becomes Ocean is the single that's already out right now. So you can listen to this on all the digital platforms. It's up on YouTube, I believe, as well. So really cool stuff there. It's obviously the big kind of ocean spirit scene from the book 1 finale. So very cool. But I do just want to talk about some of this stuff, because obviously, as you can see here, it's going to be a 35-track album, basically. Hour 22 minutes, coming out November 17th. So a lot of this stuff is a little kind of vague and kind of almost hidden here because of the kind of weird kind of nature of maybe some of the announcements around it. But it's great that it's finally kind of coming out, of course. And obviously all of it is basically re-recorded effectively. A lot of it is said to be expanded as well. So let's just go through some of this stuff. So obviously, first one up here is the premiere main title. We all know what that is. It's going to be actually really interesting to see how this all it works in relation to the track names that we sort of have from the kind of fan kind of track listings that have been put together. But obviously they're not official titles. These are official titles. So one or two of them I think are the exact same, and a few of them are very obvious, but other ones maybe not so much. But it'll be interesting to kind of see what's what, because we're used to all these kind of unusual names. But Yip Yip, obviously I guess that's the kind of like building music when Sokka finally gets Appa going, of course. Away with Animals. Banished is of course I guess going to be our kind of Zuko music, early book 1 Zuko. Katara gets her own music, of course. Avatar State, we know what that is. Into a Nighttime Sky, I think we know exactly what that one's going to be. It's spelled wrong, but Agni Kai. This is obviously the Zhao Zuko Agni Kai here in Book 1. Kyoshi Warriors, Just a Simple Monk, Super Slide. So you can sort of see here, we're still in the early episodes here, I guess. Yeah, 4. This is going to be from episode 4. 5, Remember Your Courage, obviously from episode 6, I'm guessing. Into Fire Nation Territory from episode 8, I guess. Roku Destroys Temple, also from 8. Jet from 10. Previously on, so we get that music there. Running Away, Zuko's Scar. A Dream, so we're into like the storm around here. Blue Spirit Rescue, The Blue Spirit. Sungi Horn is Iroh's Sungi Horn. Here we have a Yun Underbelly, but I'm guessing because of the placement here, just before episode 16, this is meant to be from episode 15, and it's meant to be June Underbelly. We'll see if that's what it is. I'm guessing it is. Hopefully they fix the details, because it would be weird if in print, like especially if you get your vinyl and it has the track listings and like this is spelled wrong and this is also spelled wrong. That would be a little bit frustrating. But we of course have the Deserter for Zhang, Air Temple from 17. This also, I guess, from Descendants. Yeah, probably from episode 17 as well. And yeah, we have the kind of early Northern Water Tribe stuff here. Winter, Spring, Summer, and Fall. Commander Zhao. Ko the Face Stealer gets his own track. Spirit World. Yue becomes Moon Spirit. Aang becomes Ocean. Aftermath. And end credits. Feels like they're hitting on a little bit of everything, and then of course, you know, when we get the book 2 and 3 soundtrack, they'll be able to cover the rest of the stuff, and we basically know we're getting the other soundtracks. If we go over to Jeremy Zuckerman on Instagram, you can see to someone who asked about the Korra soundtracks, Brian actually responded saying that he would like to also see books 2 to 4, all of them on vinyl, and then also saying that we're hoping to make that happen eventually, Korra. But first, we're focusing on getting ATLA out there in a big way. So without fully directly saying book 2 and 3 are happening, that to me seems to confirm it. Like, why would they stop this at this kind of early stage? I think that's definitely going to happen. I know we have the precedent for they did one soundtrack release and then stopped with Korra, but I think it's a very different situation this time out. And I think it is going to do very, very well for them. Overall, so I'm pretty excited for it actually myself. It's one of those things where like I don't think I have is there a record player in the house? I'd have to look. I have to check that. I know I personally don't have a record player, so it might be one of those things where I have to get a record player, buy the vinyl, just because I like the idea of actually having the physical kind of release. And then especially if they do anything special with the physical release, like it actually has like an interview style thing in it, or the actual vinyl kind of, you know, itself is kind of fancy, I think it would make for a really nice collector's piece, because of course we've been waiting so long for this, and you kind of want to actually like own it and not just it be like digital files and stuff like that. So yeah, that's the big one. And the other point I want to make about this actually is that it's a little bit unfortunate what ended up happening, because clearly this was meant, I'm assuming, to be announced at the Braving the Elements Comic-Con panel. Remember the timing of like the exact like hour when this was announced? It was during the hour that panel was meant to take place during. And of course, Jeremy Zuckerman was at Comic-Con when I think otherwise like he didn't really have anything else going on. So it's like 100% I think confirmed he was meant to be at the panel. That will be when the big announcement happens. If you are if you actually listen to Braving the Elements, they actually put out a little release on the feed. It's like a 2-3 minute thing where Janet Varney basically just introduces it. So I'm not sure if it was like pre-recorded and they maybe had to edit it down, or whatever happened. But she did give a little bit of an intro to it, and then Jeremy Zuckerman gives the intro that you can find on like the YouTube video where he kind of more kind of promotional wise talks about it. And she also, right at the end of that little recording, kind of teases the idea that there's bigger announcements to come, which I took to be finally announcing the next season of the podcast. That, or what is Braving the Elements switching to being a kind of news kind of thing. I don't know, but I think they were probably teasing the season 3 announcement right at the end there. But it's one of those ones where it's unfortunate, because I'm assuming there would have been a very cool video of like Jeremy Zuckerman doing some sort of a big announcement where either they called him onto the stage and they properly announced it. We got to hear the crowd cheer. Instead, it was just like an Instagram post. That didn't feel super important, especially because I think the way most of us found out was just the press release was actually sent out to a bunch of the bigger kind of entertainment websites, and it was just a few of them, I guess, posting about it like maybe a little bit before the embargo time. And so it just slowly rolled out, and then Jeremy Zuckerman posted about it. We missed the super hype announcement that we probably wanted, but I guess there'll be time to have more hype stuff about it. Like, I'm assuming they'll have a big thing about it, like Braving the Elements or something like that, when it actually releases in November. But yeah, because of the strike stuff, a lot of that kind of official stuff, it feels like, can it even happen overall? I suppose it wouldn't be too much of a problem, like, if like just like they let Jeremy Zuckerman do an episode of Braving the Elements where he just talks about the music, even if they can't have Dante and Janet on. Would be interesting. But yeah, that probably brings us into the other part of the announcement. So this probably highlights the communication problem over the course of the panel. Dark Horse, of course, didn't live tweet it. We relied on one fan live tweeting the panel. That's where we got like most of the information from. Otherwise, it was Nickelodeon themselves actually posting about stuff. So of course, Azula and the Spirit Temple, we know about this already. It's coming November 2023. It's technically October 31st / November 1st, specifically. Obviously, it's Halloween for the mass market date, so the digital stuff, and then it's November 1st for mass market. So just keep that in mind. So yeah, they're teasing that, the Halloween kind of a whole idea of it. And then apparently the only other thing in the panel was this. And I think this is the thing in the sense that I think right up until like literally the day before the panel, we probably weren't even expecting the next Avatar comic to really be announced. We were maybe hoping as like a bonus it would be like mentioned as well. But because Peter Wortman finally actually put out a little bit of a thing teasing that he's like directly moved on to working on the next comic, or has been for a while, we sort of had a sense that that's probably coming as well. But the big problem, of course, no Korra comic announcement. And for the most part, there was basically no acknowledgement of the comic at the panel. Now, admittedly, the coverage, because it was just one person, didn't cover everything. And we learned later that it seems like it was mentioned or like alluded to, because they had video kind of call-ins from some of the creators. So I'm guessing some member of the team called in and mentioned something about it. But obviously there was no news to say. And I think that's probably telling with the fact that even in the sort of kind of addressing fan concerns, there still wasn't any like news associated with the book. It was just, here's this comic that you weren't even kind of expecting. And the and basically like the cover for I Am Zuko. It's an awkward one, I think, how this is all played out. Like, just to stick on this for a while, the bounty hunter, the T-Bird, I think it has potential. Like, I think it's a weird choice. I really do think it's a weird choice in that I don't think for most fans this specific combination of like Iroh and June would have been anywhere near the top of anyone's list for a character-focused one-shot comic that we were going to get, especially to follow up Azula in the Spirit Temple, like the probably the biggest comic Dark Horse have had in years. I don't know. It's an unusual one. They highlighted it obviously during the panel. I guess they mentioned that they want to highlight characters that didn't get much focus in the show, which I think is perfectly fine. The problem is it speaks to, I suppose, the issue with the kind of trajectory of Dark Horse Comics going forward, that obviously when they say that means the ambition of these comics is kind of a lot lower unless they really commit to doing something huge. Now, the Azula comic, it made it feel like they're actually going to do something big. This is kind of like, again, there's still potential for a 72-page comic involving Iroh and June. But what about, Mei? What about Ty Lee? What about Sokka or any of these other characters who maybe need the solo comic a little bit more, that you could do work with to kind of put into a better position ahead of like the animated project? What exactly are we doing? Not to mention, like, it's also a bit weird. Many people have pointed out, like, why have they paired these two up? Why specifically these two? Given what their dynamic from the show actually is, where it's just like Iroh being a bit weird towards June, and it's just like, haha, at least, or it's really kind of creepy at worst. Now, obviously, I think they're not going to lean into that dynamic much at all, or if they do, it will be like first meeting within this comic, and then like it won't be like that for the rest of the book, and we'll get more down to kind of like serious business, because what I'm guessing the book is going to do is characterize June more heavily than Iroh. And I'm guessing they'll more highlight that Iroh is just sort of like going to be more concerned about some sort of a maybe path June is taking, and take up the position of trying to help her in some way. Because obviously she's a bounty hunter, and has, in a way, her two appearances in the show is like, one is helping like Zuko when he was bad, and then the other is helping Zuko when he was good. So she's kind of in a bit of a mixed position. So which kind of, in a way, direction is she going in the kind of post-comic timeline stuff? So I don't know. There's room to work with this. I mentioned on Twitter shortly after the comic release that with June, apart from the episode itself, there's one interesting piece of information about her, which is from the old Nickelodeon website, the Lost Lore, basically. It talks about her father also being a bounty hunter, and her father being the one who gave Nyla to her, and that kind of being a kind of an aspect of her character. So you kind of wonder, like, ooh, like, is her father not around anymore? Is he still around? That's maybe a way to create like a different connection between Iroh and June, is that maybe Iroh knew June's father. There might be some way to do that. As maybe people have pointed out, she does have this tattoo that could be a bit of a Dao Fei connection back into the past, which would maybe explain the kind of, bounty hunting kind of focus. Maybe it is more of a deep dive into the bounty hunter aspect, but there's some ideas that they can definitely work with here. I suppose it's just one of those things where I think most people will probably be looking for, like, okay, they're going to do good work with June. But is Iroh going to be anything more than just a support to June? Like, is there any opportunity for, like, maybe some more really interesting stuff about Iroh to come out? That, like, if, like, for instance, if they announced this and it was just an Iroh one-shot, I think there'd be a different level of hype around the book, because it would suddenly open the door to, like, we can do backstory stuff, we can actually really get into this. But the June connection makes it feel like it leans super heavily towards June, and Iroh will just be like, it'll be, instead of Zuko and Iroh, it's going to be June and Iroh, and that's going to be the idea. Now, the one piece of concept art that they showed showing the kind of harbor area. I don't think there's much that we can particularly make out about that, but I guess, the question is obviously, how do they kind of meet up again? Like, that's going to be one of those things. It's like, what's actually going on here? Like, I'm assuming Iroh is in the Jasmine Dragon, and I'm guessing she comes across it and she finds him. That probably would make sense ultimately. And there's maybe the chance that, like, to hunt someone down, she needs Iroh, who, because he's Order of the White Lotus, because he seems to know everyone almost, maybe that's the whole idea here. But, who knows? Because, like, I don't know how much you can read into a bounty hunter and the tea brewer, because it just speaks to more like, okay, that is Iroh's kind of current position, but, that's really all there is to say there. I'm not sure how much they can go into on, like, Shirshu, the Nyla being here. Like, I guess we'll see Nyla in action again, which should be cool. But other than that, it's kind of like, what exactly is going to happen here? So that's a little bit frustrating. That I wish we maybe knew a little bit more. The other point is summer 2024 is also, I think, a bit of a surprise. That this release date is much further into the future than I would have expected the next Avatar comic to be. Because if this is the direct, like, they have a trilogy of one-shots again, and there's going to be another one after this. This is coming out really far after Azula and the Spirit Temple, considering Azula and the Spirit Temple has already been delayed, and I think most of those delays are more production rather than the creative side of things. It's, I think, mentioned in chat there that Faith Aaron Hicks said something about supply chain issues. So the issues still affecting these comics mostly seem to be on the getting the books printed and then shipped out to where it's going to be sold, more so than anything. So what's going on with, like, the release date here? Obviously there's a real struggle with organizing everything to hit their dates, because of course when they announced Azula and the Spirit Temple, it was meant to be summer this year. We probably would have had it already, but it got delayed, then delayed again, and now it's pretty much just making the right end of the year. But usually the comics come out somewhere between 4 and 6 months after the release of the previous comic. And this one probably is going to be more like 9 months afterwards, with the same creative team. So I'm not sure what's happened here. Like, was the Azula comic literally a one-shot just purely made on its own, and now this is now made again separately on its own, so it doesn't even have the same kind of production cycle behind the scenes that the Katara Toph Suki comics had? There's a frustration there, because this then means the first Korra comic won't be until probably fall 2024 at the earliest, assuming delays on that potentially haven't pushed it even further back. And they said that book initially was meant to be a 2023 release, and it's not going to be. Which, of course, brings us into the fact that Korra comic, what happened to the Mako comic? Why wasn't it announced? The problem is mainly, I think, a communication one of, like, it seems like something was said about it, but because what was said about it at the panel didn't actually get out there publicly, and then because there was no announcement about it, it just created an issue among fans, because you mentioned it at SDCC last year, you mentioned it at New York Comic Con last year, and then you skipped it this year. Why? And what's the problem, given that it was meant to be a 2023 release? And again, this is assuming this book hits its release dates as well. This could fall out of this time as well, and this might be the November book for next year, October, November next year. So there's that. So we do have, of course, other fans reaching out to Dark Horse. This is something I tend not to do, like on Twitter and stuff like that. It is my approach to not really aim any of my commentary or videos or anything like that at creative teams, at Dark Horse themselves. It's just, I think it's not the most ideal thing. But someone else asked about, like, hey, what's going on? And of course, it's a bit unclear like who's responding here, because it's very easy to be like, Dark Horse don't know what they're talking about, but you have to think about the actual situation here of like, this is a social media person who's probably not super high up in the chain. This is not the same as if the moderator from the panel was actually like having the chat with you. But still, it sort of speaks to the idea of like, a real unwillingness to even acknowledge stuff that has been said before. I think there's a little bit of an issue basically about this. I believe you are referring to a rumor that there would be a Mako short story that would be in the book, Patterns in Time, which of course wasn't mentioned here by a person asking. And, we don't have any books coming up that will be about Mako. And obviously there's a little bit of an element of, they probably just they can't talk really about books that haven't been officially announced yet. But when you say something like that to someone asking, it feels very like clear that like, oh, no Mako book, so what you said at the con last year doesn't mean anything. And even the thing here about a rumor that there will be a Mako short story in the book, like, what are they referring to there? Are they referring to the fact that the back of the book mentions that Mako and Bolin are in the book, but they're not actually in the book? So this somehow created a rumor that there was a story in Patterns in Time about Mako? I don't know, because there wasn't any direct rumors that there would be a Mako comic, but like obviously because the back of the book says Mako, like you would assume that there is. I just don't understand some of this stuff. But obviously, eventually what happened was that I posted the clip from New York Comic Con last year, where directly Cara O'Neill, the moderator of the panel, what position is she in Dark Horse? She is the vice president of marketing for Dark Horse Comics. So like high up in terms of people who can speak about what's going on. She directly in this clip says, the one thing I can say to you is that the first story of the Korra comic trilogy coming out will be about Mako. And so, of course, same person basically responded to the previous comment being like, hey, there's a direct video of you talking about a Mako comic. And they finally gave an answer. This series is still in the works, but we really don't have any more info to share at the moment about it, including any potential release date. Books, especially graphic novels and comics, take a long time to produce, so please keep an eye on any future announcement for more information. And it's like, great, okay, cool. You at least acknowledged it. But the problem really is, Dark Horse, or even Nickelodeon, given that they were kind of doing the news, why can't you just say that, like, Korra comics are still in the works, Mako is still planned to be the first comic, it's still in production. At least then people are like, okay, cool, it's maybe a little bit further behind than we thought, but at least they acknowledged it and said it, and they're still talking about it. Instead, there has to be a bit of a kind of fan backlash online. Someone has to basically come to them with, but you said this, to get a response. It shouldn't be that hard to communicate to kind of get the information, is the ultimate idea. And then I think it's kind of unfortunate that Alexandria Monique kind of felt that she had to say this. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of specifically the kind of wording necessarily of this. I appreciate that it's at the very least a sort of like, the book is still happening type thing, I guess. But of course, this speaks to the idea of like, the reason fans may come across like they are not giving people grace or being perhaps understanding about the behind the scenes working is because, spoilers, we don't know, because you don't communicate with us to tell us what's going on behind the scenes. So, fan frustration at the lack of communication, I think, is absolutely allowed to happen. And I don't even think the backlash here was particularly extreme. It was just people being like, hey, you, literally what I said earlier on, you broke the cycle. You did SDCC last year and NYCC last year. And then what? Nothing this year? Like a year later, nothing. What's the deal there? You know, you only communicate in a kind of more typical way at these cons. So if we miss one of these opportunities, it feels like we don't get it, because for the entire rest of the year in between the two Comic-Cons and the next group of two Comic-Cons, we don't get updates. Like the sort of lesser books, reprint books and stuff like that, get announced by, like, you know, the listings just go up and stuff like that. But we don't get like early announcements of stuff unless it's at one of these cons. And so this is why people were frustrated, because going into this con, there was, I think, the expectation that this would show us the future of publishing for Avatar, and it didn't really, apart from the like absolute like immediate future. So again, I appreciate that this was said, but it should not be on the creative team of the book to have to sort of quote unquote deal with fan backlash. I do wish that the creators on the Avatar books were able to communicate a little bit more. Like, probably FCE is probably, I think, the best example of this, of just like, he just like disappears from social media in between books. Like, he'll do like 1, maybe 2 interviews, attend a panel at one of the cons, and then completely disappear from the internet until like the next book. And it's a bit like, okay, guess you're not allowed to interact with the fans while this is going on. And I think we've seen that a lot over the years. There's a lot of, because it's an IP, I guess, they're not really allowed to say all that much, and it creates a bit of a kind of frustrating situation for us. But the net result of all of this is just that communication is pretty bad, and has been for quite a while, because it's not just the lack of the Mako comic announcement, it is Beast of the Four Nations. We have to keep bringing this book up. And again, this is the point with that as well. How much of a fuss do we need to make online before they acknowledge that book? Because I think that's probably an even worse situation, because people like myself and many others have a set of 5 books currently. We are missing one final book from a group of very expensive books that was meant to be out like who knows how long ago at this point. And now the book is in a weird kind of cancelled, might be announced at a later point stage. That's really frustrating, especially when, again, they didn't comment about it or anything. So it's not a good situation overall. And then, like, add to that so many other points, like Free Comic Book Day last year, and the fact that their marketing said there was an Aang story in there when there wasn't, and it was replaced with the Chibi comic preview. The Chibi comic itself is the worst delayed book of all time with what happened with it. I don't even understand what happened with it. So it's really, really kind of frustrating what's going on. There's that. Oh, that's interesting. In Alexandra Monique's reply, she did mention there would be 3 Mako comics. Let's see, does she say that? Does she even mention it specifically? Like, I'm kind of rereading it. It's like, what's going on here? I probably have to look to find it specifically. But yeah, there is still confusion about that as well. Like, this speaks to the bad communication. Is it a one-shot trilogy for Korra Comics, or is it a trilogy that happens to have Mako as a focus? It's this is the thing, because again, the whole reason like this was even a bit confusing is because they never directly said this was a one-shot trilogy like Azula into this one, but they did say it was a Korra comic trilogy. But then what's going on here? Because again, the wording is like, you know, the first one is focused on Mako. So wait, are you confirming multiple Korra comic trilogies that the first one of them will just be about Mako, and it's 3 books about Mako? or what. Like, and there's some real kind of like crazy stuff going on here, because I think we all assume both Avatar and Korra are in one-shot territory completely at the moment, because it doesn't seem like we're able to kind of progress the story in any like big way whatsoever. So a lot of that stuff I think is kind of up in the air. So yeah, let me just quickly try and find that reply that more directly mentions what's going on here. So let's see. Alexandra Monique replies. Okay, I think this is it. Oh yeah, I think I saw this. I just completely forgot about it. So, let's open this up. So, question, what's going on here? So, hi, it's not my place to announce release dates or details. Mako's story in the 3 books I'm doing art for is in the works. I'm very excited. Might be more information at New York Comic Con. Now, there needs to be an announcement at New York Comic Con, because if they miss New York Comic Con, then like it would have to be announced in between conventions then, if it's just in any way on schedule. So I don't know what to make of that. Like, Mako's story in the 3 books. So are they just saying that like it's a trilogy where part of the story is that Mako has an arc in it? I don't know. It speaks to the wording being weird from what Cara O'Neill said at New York Comic Con last year. So I don't know, or is it they could do some weird thing where it technically kind of is a trilogy of one shots, but they are interconnected, where like it still is technically a trilogy that will be part 1, part 2, part 3, but maybe part 1 is just like entirely Mako focused, and then it switches over to being like Bolin focused or something like that. But again, this is really bad communication here. That like we're kind of like, wait, what's the format? Again, they're going to be 72-page books. There's going to be 3 72-page books. It's just unclear about like what the actual details of it are. Either way, Mako is involved. He's finally going to appear in a comic again, and that is good. But obviously, we have nothing to speculate on, is the main idea here. So, this is not a good situation to leave fans in. It's just like, in a way, like your artist kind of doing what they can on Twitter without kind of breaking whatever non-disclosure agreements they have to try and just get people up to speed. It's a pretty bad situation, and it's obviously some combination of Dark Horse and Avatar Studios that are making this happen, and they should probably help her out here by actually saying something. And look, I get it. They're probably super hesitant to really say stuff when they can't confirm it. But again, at this point, I think all we really need to know is, like, can you confirm the format? Like, don't try and put a date on it if you don't know what's going on with the date. But just please, give us a format. So, Mako's story in the 3 books I'm doing art for is in the works. Because I definitely interpreted the idea of, like, because we've seen some of her, like, preview art. Let me just try and actually get that up. I think this is what they showed at the Comic-Con last year. Why is my typing so slow? Okay, here. Alex Monique, Art Station. Is this it? Yeah, here. So, this is sketch pages of Korra's team for Dark Horse Comics, first shown at New York Comic Con. So they showed these during the panel as like an example of her art. And so you can see it's kind of a kind of collage about Korra. There's one for Bolin. There's one for Mako, of course, which is very cool. And there is one for Asami. So the main team members are all here. Now, the assumption would be that even in a Mako-focused comic, we'd at least see the other characters. But I think the fact that there is so much focus on the whole team probably suggests that maybe it is just Korra comics, and maybe Mako is more of a focus than previously perhaps expected. Again, these images are probably not going to be in the comic. This is, I guess, just test stuff that she maybe did when she was kind of maybe trying out to be the artist for the comic, or maybe when she got confirmed, just for that. But you know, it's completely like unrelated to what we'll actually see in the book. But I just think it is somewhat interesting that like she has done the entire team, when potentially it's a Mako comic that is up first. So who knows? Hopefully things will get better, but it's not looking like things will particularly get better, because the final thing probably about this that we have to talk about here is one, Magpie didn't seem like they had anything to show, because based on what the person live tweeting it said, they talked about the Republic City book like it was still ages away, when it was days away. Now, I don't know, maybe they were just in a situation where, you know, because of the weird way they're doing the pre-orders, where I'm not even sure if it's available to pre-order or get at this point, even the digital stuff. Maybe that we'll have to wait until the full release and the physical book comes out. But anyway, they didn't seem to tease the Spirit World book, so that was a bit frustrating. And then the big thing is, on the Abrams book side of things, there was no report about what FCE said at the panel. None at all. Now, maybe he did just do the standard panel promo for Legacy of Yang Chen, because it was out like a couple of days before the panel. But the really weird thing about the whole FCE situation is that it now feels like there's a little bit of a kind of like, is he or isn't he continuing on? Because the afterword and what he said on Instagram make it really, really, like, it feels really obvious that he's not continuing. But then there was that interview, a text interview that came out where they were like teasing in it that like, oh, if he could do another one, he'd do Zito. But it was like, he doesn't know what's coming up next. But it wasn't like super kind of clear, or even almost alluding to the idea that he's done with the books like he was in the other material. And then because we're at the end of a duology, like, is it just that like he won't be working on a book for a year until they announce the next one, like what happened between Kyoshi and Yang Chen? In that case, it makes his goodbyes seem very like, if it was only for a year, why did you say that? So it speaks either way to sort of the idea that no announcement happened about book 5. Whatever the new Avatar is going to be, if there's a new writer, and it leaves us in this very confusing situation. I feel FCE won't be writing the next book. I think that, to me, there's more evidence supporting that, because like his official Instagram felt like very clear on, I'm not doing kind of anymore for now. Even the acknowledgement of like him, I think basically saying something along the lines of like, I am now kind of happy to be in a position where like I'll be like more watching and reading the new stuff along with you all rather than writing it. So that felt like pretty clear. But they didn't tease it at the panel. And I get it. Abrams especially are in a cycle where like they announced those books like in what, like the February before they come out in like July. And that's been like the way they've done it the entire time through. There's been no real particular fancier teases or anything like that. That's just the way it is. So I don't know. I wish they were better about it. And I think especially because, and the reason why I think a lot of this is quite disappointing, Avatar Studios is not showing its effect on publishing. I think I said this in my year in review for 2022, that right now Avatar Studios, currently, when there's no animated stuff at the moment, just feels like a new name for approvals have to go through Paramount, Nickelodeon, Viacom. It going through Avatar Studios specifically doesn't feel like it's any different than anything in the way it was before. At least based on the idea of like it may be helping with stuff being better. That's I think a real problem that we seem to be facing here, is that if the comics miss the dates, this is potentially, this Iroh comic is potentially the only 2024 comic. And even if, like, say, the Korra comic slots in right at the end of the year, it's still just 2 comics for 2024. Like, I don't know, like, yes, summer, so I don't think there's probably much of a chance that, like, the next one comes out, unless they really do this and maybe the third Avatar one-shot back-to-back. There's maybe a chance for a third one, but I would be convinced probably that the next one is probably, like, early 2025. Even that, like, 1 or 2 comics the year before the big Avatar kind of relaunch with the movie in 2025, that doesn't seem great. Especially in a year where there may not be another Avatar novel. At least right now, like, I don't know, like, are we expecting a novel next July? I feel like I'm leaning towards no, but who knows? Like, just the fact that there really wasn't much of a tease for anything, I kind of lean towards, don't know how confident I am about a novel next year. The lineup maybe not being all that great with, like, this, maybe the first Korra comic, and who knows what else might come out. That's where the frustration is. Like, as we're building up to Avatar Studios, publishing feels like it's kind of struggling, or is exactly the same as it ever was. And of course, we've had much more kind of free-flowing kind of years where things have been better. Like, the problem at the moment just seems to be that it seems like an impossible task for Dark Horse to get an Avatar and a Korra comic releasing kind of side by side. It's happened like once in the last like 10 years. It's really crazy that, like, they just cannot seem to just have, like, one of these comics come out, like, side by side, basically. I suppose the final thing on the books is just some speculation, I suppose, about the Mako comic. I don't really think there's much to say. I think the question is probably more about, what does Mako need as a character in a upcoming comic? Because it's so difficult to construct a plot and just hope that Mako does something important in. So, like, I don't know, what do they do here? The Republic City book obviously gives you a few maybe ideas about stuff they could do. Like, they could definitely do, like, kind of Turf Wars sequel, The Return of Tokuga, and just maybe have Mako be kind of more important. But I kind of feel that Korra needs to be kind of important in whenever Tokuga returns, because Tokuga seems to be targeting the Dragon Eel spirit, and I think that's kind of Korra's spirit to save there. Triad stuff with Mako, but that kind of feels a little bit like just generic, that, like, oh, of course, just Mako doing Triad stuff. We, of course, want Fire Nation stuff, but, you know, you need to, I think, construct a whole plot about why they even need to go to the Fire Nation overall. That's kind of a important kind of thing. So, I don't know. The Republic City book also, yeah, there's a little bit of kind of police politics going on for sure, where, like, Lin, yeah, like, I think in the story, the adventure that I haven't done yet, they mentioned that basically assume Lin has been basically kind of like, you know, put on hold for now as the chief of police, and that's why, like, she can't be involved in the story, and it's why Mako has to be the main focus there. So they could do something like that, where, like, Mako has to step up when kind of Lin is down. Maybe there's a new temporary chief of police, and Mako has to do something. There's room to do stuff there, but, like, the book seems to make it clear Lin is the chief of police for the next while. She's not retiring anytime soon, so Mako chief of police is not going to happen right now, basically. So yeah, and yeah, with the adventure kind of setup stuff, yeah, it's always a bit weird. Like, is it canon? Is it not? But they seem to be establishing that there's kind of some sort of a path for, like, you know, Lynn isn't political. Other people within the police are a little bit more political and can kind of go around her, as has happened already, basically, with like Tarlock. So I don't know. But again, that feels like very almost over focused on the police. Like, I get it's his job, but it kind of feels like with Mako, you want the kind of plot to be a little bit more kind of personal. But who knows? Obviously, I think we end up going back to the idea of what if he ever encountered the person who killed his parents. Like, that's always the one that we kind of want to maybe go back to, whereas that brings Bolin a little bit into play as well. It brings the other characters in to kind of deal with Mako's kind of reaction to this and help him out. But, you know, is it too 316? Is it too Southern Raiders? And is you know, how do you do it differently? I think it works differently because Mako is a different character than the ATLA characters, and you have different people in different positions, and there's a way to do it. It's certainly, I think, the most kind of emotional arc you can probably do with Mako at this point in time, and it would be one to tell us a little bit more about the details of what happened. Show us some flashbacks. We always like to see the kind of young Mako Bolin flashbacks. There's definitely some kind of room to work with there. And I don't know, because Mako's been presented as just like, he's a really good officer. Like, once we got through the book 2 stuff of like, he's the rookie, he just seems to be an incredible officer. There's room for a bit of an emotional arc where maybe this gets in the way of him doing his job, and there's a chance for some stuff to happen here. So that's cool and all, but it always feels like with the comics, they tend to avoid doing the very obvious, most fan-wanted thing. So I just have a feeling it might not be that. And then we also have to kind of factor in that the way they're talking about it, it could just be that Mako is in a Korra comic trilogy, and he's involved to a certain degree, but there's other plots going on. We do have to acknowledge that as well. So, you know, there could be stuff going on with the Spirit Portal, and we could be exploring the new Air Nation, tackling the Spirit Portal, as the Republic City book talks about in some interesting details. That would be kind of cool. Like, you know, the whole team maybe going into the Spirit Portal would be a bit of a kind of fun experience. Again, given that they've all been in the spirit world at least a little bit, but, you know, that would be somewhat interesting. So there's room for that. Let's see, I wish they could pass Mako being awkward around Asami and Korra. I think they're past it now. I think with what they did at the end of Turf Wars, they're past the awkwardness. Like, I might need to read Runes of the Empire again, but I didn't think it was too bad there. It was just that maybe Mako wasn't in focus as much, and the cast was a bit weirdly used because of the whole brainwashing plot device. But I think Mako was pretty fine there, and my expectations is that any further use of that is that he's going to be perfectly back to normal going forward, which I think is the importance of Mako in the new comic, is that finally we will have focus on him away from the awkwardness, basically. So that's a big thing as well. So does anyone have any final thoughts on Mako and what they could do with him in the comic, whether it's directly about him or he might just have like a side plot in it? Who knows? There's definitely some room to work with. Because, I don't know, the RPG, the Republic City stuff definitely makes me more interested to even see the rest of the cast, because, like, okay, like, Mako's got some Future Industries stuff going on, Bolin's role as kind of press secretary as well to Zhu Li seems quite interesting. There's some nice stuff there, and there's even the room to maybe go to one of the districts of Republic City that we didn't see before. Like, the underground seems like a super interesting place. And even some of the other ones that are maybe a bit more directly focused on it being more of an entertainment district, or it's the factory district. There's room to do some stuff with that as well. Cover by the end of the year. Yeah, I think New York Comic Con, they have to do it. It feels like if we don't get it at New York Comic Con, then it's in a bit of a weird spot where they're probably going to have to give that to like IGN or something like that to have an announcement like early in the following year. There's that. Let's see, final thing. Any idea what the Iroh June comic might be about? So yeah, I had a segment earlier on in the stream where I talked about it, but the basic, I think, ideas here is that, at least my expectations are that June, I think, will be the kind of character focus. I do expect Iroh to be more of a kind of support for June, rather than maybe the focus being specifically on Iroh. Something with his past might come up, and that, like, I was maybe speculating about if June, as a bounty hunter, needs like information that Iroh has to hunt someone down, and so he goes along with her. I was kind of referencing the idea that she has done 2 jobs for the team so far. She's done one for Zuko when he was bad, and then she did one for Zuko basically when he was good. So she's a bit in between. You kind of have hope for her as a character to go down the right path. Maybe he sees that in her. There's also the backstory with June, where we have some lore that tells us her father was a bounty hunter. Her father gave Nyla to her when she was young as well, so they kind of grew up together. Maybe Iroh knew her father. That might kind of tie into it a little bit. The tattoo might suggest some Dao face stuff, referencing the Kyoshi era. So there's options with this story, and I think we all kind of would like them to maybe do some big emotional stuff with Iroh, but June being here probably suggests the focus is very much on June. But there's maybe room to do something with it, but like, I think the bigger points of like, will Iroh and Ozai ever interact doesn't look like that's a book like where that will happen. Will we ever learn more about kind of Liu Ten and that relationship? There's probably a way to write the story where you morph around to that and you get to some sort of an idea of, him remembering his relationship with his son, trying to help June go down like a different path. I don't know. I'm interested to see what the description for this book actually ends up being, because it's clearly that they end up going on some sort of a mission to this harbor together that we have the concept art of. But I don't really know. It's a bit like, because again, I think I said this in my initial reaction to this. We know about the whole June Iroh connection from the episode where she's actually like introduced. Like we have Bottle of the Water Tribe where she's introduced. But there was an opportunity for them to actually have June and Iroh interact in the finale. If she just like stuck around for a little bit longer when the White Lotus showed up, she doesn't have to be involved in the final battle, but they very specifically just had June guide the group to the Order of the White Lotus camp, leave, and then they encounter everyone. So, coming back to this, I'm assuming they have a bigger reason for why these two need to encounter each other again. Beyond just whatever dynamic they had from the first episode that they were in together. So, like I said, I think there has to be some sort of a thing where he somehow knows something about her family. He knows information that she needs, is probably more the likely kind of thing. Because I think she realized that, like, okay, I'm basically working for royals here. I'll remember that I can get information from him. And I guess she always has the scent of Iroh that she can always come back to with the whole shoe thing. Because I'm guessing it will be a plot point here that maybe they kept that, or they'll reveal something about Shearshu that they like remember every smell. So that's their way to always find Iroh wherever he is, because they tracked him before. But anyway, that's that whole idea. From there, I think we will jump into the figure unboxing, this section of the video here. So let me just switch this to, what do I need to do? Just cam. So yeah, I guess I'll do Katara first because the box is a little smaller here. So yeah, this is a Dark Horse Katara figure. Packaging is kind of plain. It's in line with sort of what's become the standard kind of packaging stuff, the kind of navy, kind of tan, sand colored stuff. Not really a lot of Dark Horse kind of listing on it. It's just like a one logo on the back here that actually gets across it's Dark Horse, really. Not much going on there. I'd say the only frustrating thing about these figures is that I think these were also like super heavily delayed. I have no idea like how many months ago like the initial release actually was, because I think it still says February on the website, but I did a quick look and I don't really see many videos with lots of coverage of it from the last few months, so it might just be the last few months that it's actually kind of come out. And also the other frustrating point is they haven't announced any more. Because of course they have some of the characters as like exclusive, more expensive figures, but these are the only two they've announced in the sort of like reasonably price range. Let's see, what do we have in chat? Maybe June helps him find his wife, Liu Ten's mum. That would certainly make the comic very interesting, but I would be a bit stunned if they in any way referenced it. It kind of feels like stuff like that, like whoever Iroh's like wife was, Liu Ten's mother. It just kind of feels like when's that going to kind of come up? Or will they just forever keep that one like a secret, like in a way almost? Does it matter to a certain degree who it was? But I don't know. There's a chance, absolutely. It's just like a lot of the stuff around Iroh's backstory is kind of weird like that, where it's been so long now that it's almost kind of unbelievable that they would finally answer it to any sort of degree. So I don't know. Definitely a weird one, but yeah, the assumption that she's dead, yeah. I think most people go with the sort of headcanon that she probably potentially died giving birth to Liu Ten. That would kind of add on to the whole idea that when Liu Ten died, he kind of lost like his whole kind of family effectively. But again, that also speaks to the idea that we need more Liu Ten as well. Because that's always been a thing with me, that like I know everyone loves the scene from Tales of Ba Sing Se, but I think these days when I go back to it, it's like it's still emotional, but it's like I wish I knew Liu Ten. It's been so many years now at this point that I wish I knew Liu Ten, what that dynamic was, and really got more of a sense for this is why it is such a huge impact on Iroh to lose Liu Ten, and kind of what position Liu Ten really had kind of within the family. And Iroh says, "I'm sorry I couldn't have helped you." Is that just a directly on the battlefield where you were killed, or was Liu Ten maybe going down a bit of a different path? Like Legacy of the Fire Nation has some stuff, some nice pieces of art, but it doesn't. It feels like there's not quite the full story there. So yeah, here's the plastic here. So is there any tape on this? I don't think there is. So that's kind of unusual actually to not actually have any tape. But let's just open this. So okay, yeah, all in one piece. There we go. So bottom of the figure, just standard overall. I actually really like the base, actually. So you can see here's the Water Tribe symbol base. I think is a really cool idea here. Kind of the kind of almost sand one. It's almost like Iroh kind of put it in the sand, of course. So let's see, the face, very nice. Doesn't seem to be any like defects or anything like that on it. Nice water bending effect. And yeah, it is coming out of the water pouch on her back, as you can see there. So it's very, very nicely kind of constructed as it kind of like flows around, of course. Cool pose actually as well. It is very nice. Obviously, like the Diamond Select one has much more of a fancy bending pose, but this is obviously more of a kind of screen accurate, like say Katara face and stuff like that. And I think for like, what was this, like 50 euro is what this one is, the kind of mid-range kind of price. This is super, super solid. And one big thing, they went for book 3 Katara. I really like that they went for book 3 Katara. Not many companies are doing that. Like, you'll notice everyone is always like book 1 Aang up first. So I actually like the companies that go for the book 3 stuff first, because it kind of is what you more remember the characters as now, because they have more kind of later experience with that. But yeah, details are quite nice. Yeah, even you can see kind of like kind of her hairstyle there with the kind of book 3 style hair loopies is pretty nice. Obviously, they don't try and put as much detail sort of like into the hair, which probably wouldn't expect at this kind of price point. And that probably helps to keep the cost down. But otherwise, like, the detail is really, really good. Like, all the kind of paint applications you'd expect, like on her kind of shoes and stuff like that, are really good. Like, I've done the kind of back and stuff like that. Really good. So very happy with this one for sure. And obviously, because this and the Diamond Select Katara are roughly the same price and size, I'd probably say the Diamond Select is slightly bigger just because the water base is kind of a lot bigger. This is pretty good overall. So yeah, the pricing on this and the Zuko, which I'll get into in a second, is like 50 euros what I paid, but I think it's like $50 depending on where you get it from. Somewhere in that region, it's like 50 or 60. It's not like hugely expensive for a statue, given that like it's relatively big. Like on hand, yeah, I have the Diamond Select Aang here actually to give you a bit of a size comparison. So here's Diamond Select Aang versus Dark Horse Katara here. So you can see the Aang is actually quite a bit bigger. The air effect is like much kind of bigger compared to the base on the Katara. And again, relatively similar kind of price points here, I think. I think the Diamond Selects are maybe like $5-10 more expensive. Especially the new kind of batch of them. The Toph, I think, that just was put up on pre-order is, I think, a little bit more expensive than the first batch of Diamond Select stuff. And then the Iroh they announced has gone up for pre-order. Where I order from, they haven't put it up yet, but the Iroh looks very good. So yeah, there is Katara. So I'll just put her down here. And then we'll get into Zuko. So this is the duo that they ended up releasing here. I hope they do more, because I was pretty impressed with the Katara there. It'd be nice to get the full team with the kind of elemental kind of sand bases. So yeah, packaging is basically the same, just Zuko PVC. It's obviously like the box is like twice as big as the Katara one, just because of the pose is obviously like you can see sort of there. The base ends here, but the effect part goes way out. But yeah, that's just that. And again, very easy to open as well. Not like covered in tape. So that's good. There is the Zuko. So you can see it's kind of like open there, but that's fine. Plastic everywhere. But okay, here is Zuko. Pretty nice. So again, base. Very nice with the fire. There it is, kind of like right way up. Very strong pose. The Diamond Select Zuko does have a little bit of a kind of odd pose, the way they have him kind of like almost riding the fire. This is more of a very strong, dancing dragon fire punch, which I really like. So you have the kind of double kind of flame effect here on the fist here. And then you also have the secondary kind of punch about to kind of come in here. Kind of smaller, but of course, you know, the idea is as he executes it, it'll get bigger. He does have the sword. Of course, it's a figure, so the sword isn't going to come out, but you have them there. Not particularly like molded where like it's obvious that like it would become two swords, but you know, do you expect them to have like that much detail there? There's a little bit of a seam line kind of gives the effect, but you know, just nice that they included some of that there. The face is pretty good. I don't think it's maybe as strong as the Katara face sculpt, but it's I think pretty good. A lot of times these figures can have maybe not the most amazing kind of facial expressions, but the Zuko is pretty good. Maybe like his mouth's maybe a little bit kind of open in a slightly odd way, but I don't think it's too bad. And overall, the accuracy with the face sculpt I think is quite good. The hair has been a struggle on some of the Zuko Book 3 Zuko action figures, so they got it right here for sure. So that's very nice. So there's that. And then as for the comparison, like it is interesting. The bases are actually like nowhere near the same size. So you can see the base on the two figures is actually like very different sizes here. Whereas I think when I first saw them, my expectations probably would have been that like I assumed the kind of circles here for the bases are going to be like the same size, but I guess it fits. Katara has a little bit more of a kind of contained stance, whereas Zuko's really kind of stepping forward. But also they do go for the sense of scale here, that kind of like Zuko's kind of bigger than Katara. So that's kind of nice. Again, I really like them, but they have to do an Aang, they have to do a Toph at least at this kind of price point mass release to make it work, obviously. So we have the four elements. And so far they haven't got around to announcing it, which is a little bit unfortunate, but they're very good figures, I would say. So they get pretty good marks from me. I don't blame anyone for maybe not committing to figures until they have like more of a complete set. So sort of so far you would say like Diamond Select, because they actually have Aang, Katara, Zuko, Toph is coming. Now they're doing Iroh, and then we'll see if they get around to doing like the others. Sokka would be nice to sort of complete Team Avatar, plus add Suki in there as well. And then hopefully they do like Ty Lee, May, Azula, and you know, they're the main, really obvious kind of main characters to kind of cover. So yeah, with that out of the way, I'll just cover this quite quickly, and then we'll get into some Generations gameplay to kind of finish off the stream. But we do have the patch notes for Avatar Generations for the update tomorrow. So this is going to be a kind of interesting one, because they are adding some kind of new features into the game with this patch, and then a kind of patch happening in the middle of August. So the first feature is the new event dungeons, which they've talked about a little bit before, which is basically their way of bringing up stories ahead of time without having to have a full like adventure mode thing. And it looks like it's going to be more like the activities where you have stage 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You'll earn a specific currency. You'll get a chance to use some of the new characters who are part of it. So it's going to be Ronin Zuko here and Traveler Iroh. Do I have a picture? I think I have a picture of these here. Is this it? Yeah, so you can see here, it's going to be a Peace Traveler Iroh and also Peace Ronin Zuko are going to be two of the characters who you'll be able to summon tomorrow. And you can see the dagger is the kind of special currency for this event. It's a little bit weird about how exactly this is going to work, in that we currently don't know what the exclusive rewards are going to be, because it seems like the Peace Chaos banner that's coming tomorrow is going to be for those two characters. And the data mining that's out so far suggests that the banner is just Peace Zuko 5-star, and then the Iroh is 4-star, but they're both Peace. there is the data for May in the game already, but it doesn't seem like she's part of this at the moment. But it is interesting she's in the game, like, files anyway already. So if you know where to look, of course, we have information on like May's kind of moveset and stuff like that. As for this one here, Awakening banner, this one is going to be part of the big, what do they call it, Generations kind of festival to celebrate a year of early access. So they're going to have 2 anniversaries, one for the early access of the game, which lasted quite a while, and then one for the mass release of the game. This, as far as I'm aware, is going to be a summon banner where the main items that you will get from it are going to be there will at the very least be 4-star arts. There will be skill coins, and there will also be what other item am I forgetting about here? I forget the details, but it's a lot of the kind of rare 5-star character tickets, I think. Stuff like that is apparently meant to be in the loot pool for this event. Now, I don't know what the pity rate on this is going to be, what the summon kind of rates are going to be. So this could be one that could be very good, or it could be extraordinarily skippable. Because the problem is, we don't know exactly everything coming up, but especially for Peace Chaos, we know there are some super, super, super important characters coming up in Peace Chaos. So, the Zuko, of course, the Iroh, May is coming, Ty Lee is coming, Azula is coming, and they're all going to be Peace Chaos, is basically what we know. Because the beach event that they did for, like, relics for these characters is also a thing. So there's that as well. So that's a kind of interesting one. Limited hero banner, I'm not sure what necessarily this is going to be, because obviously they don't obviously suggest like what else is coming into the game in terms of more of a story thing. They mentioned they're changing the adventure map here. And one of the things we do know is that eventually there's a Dojo Master focused adventure kind of story coming into the game that will kind of continue that story about who is the Dojo Master. So I think there's an expectation that, like, at the very least there'll be potentially another Dojo Master unit, Xin, what's her name, Xin Ming, from the early stages of the game story, will be a powerful opponent character, and then the Dojo Master's like enemy effectively will be a character at some point also. But we don't know the specifics there. So that's a kind of big thing. So all that's kind of interesting. So yeah, for this, if this is just Zuko and Iroh, I know myself, I am completely probably going to skip it and save Peace Chaos tickets to get May, Ty Lee, Azula, focus more there. Just because the way the Zuko and the Iroh operate as units is fine. It seems pretty good, but I would prefer to have the different characters, ultimately. There's some other stuff that they mention here, like different relics are coming to the kind of general Four Nations banner. More event challenges are, of course, coming. The expectation probably is that these need to be really rewarding. If they're going to ask people to do like so many summons on potentially multiple rapid fire Peace Chaos banners, and then lead into another Kyoshi update, they are really pressuring people to be so careful with their tickets here. So hopefully over the course of the anniversary event, they do give you an option to earn like more tickets than you currently can, because it's definitely going to be needed. So yeah, the new relics. So Talarik Tug is coming to the summon shop, which is pretty good. He's actually a really good unit. So he is a Kyoshi era character. If you missed him, powerful opponent for the first update, he will be available again. He's definitely probably one of my best units. I think he's my like highest power rated unit in the game, as you'll see when I get into gameplay. The Fire Hit is coming back as well. And then the tuning stuff, basically the main thing here is they are switching it so that, let's see, they're fixing it so that defense, they kind of nerfed defense going into the more recent updates, they're bringing defense back up a little bit because it's a bit too easy for, I think, quite a few characters to kind of one-shot people, and defense almost doesn't mean anything anymore. Kyoshi should finally be a bit more balanced now because they've limited counterattacks to once per turn. So the previous nerf that they had was to put it down to 25%, so it's going back up to 35%. But it now will be limited to once per turn. So Kyoshi shouldn't be as much of a menace in the arena anymore. And then, yeah, they're fixing Moonslayer Zhao, who is an oppressive character in the arena, as you'll see. I have him maxed out. A lot of interesting stuff here. Yeah, the brothers are awful to fight against, so they're getting nerfs, I think, absolutely justified. Because these are awful to fight against in the story mode, let alone people like actually building them for the arena. So this is absolutely needed. These two are a disaster, especially with the Warden. So that's bad. Yeah, Talarik Tug is getting a nerf because the counterattacks are going down to 1. And then Warden's Tower is also getting fixed. So that's a notable one there as well. And then I'll just quickly mention this stuff in case you missed it on the live stream for the Kyoshi update that's coming in, I guess, a month or two. We have some of these new characters who are coming into the game. So we have some Kyoshi era airbender characters who will be coming in, Samira and Nathaka, as well as a group that are basically mercenaries who fight against Dao Fei and pirates, with Zhang Yu and various different other mercenaries, basically. So I'm really excited to see what they do here. I'm a little bit unclear as to, like, is this Rise of Kyoshi Part 2 but with some extra? Or is it just that the next Kyoshi update will be completely new content? Or are they two separate things that are actually coming sort of back to back? Because for the Kyoshi stuff in the game, we of course know that, like, Heiron wasn't in the first update, and we're waiting for Heiron to come into the game, and then the expectation would be that the next update should be very heavy on, like, the Flying Opera Company, so we'll have all those characters to potentially get. Kirima, Wong, Lek, Lao Ge is going to be quite interesting if they do him. It depends on how much of the story that they cover, but then after that, you're maybe running out of characters, like, a little bit. But you still have the likes of, as you go into, like, the second book, you still have, like, a Glowworm Enhanced Yoon to do. I think they're for sure going to do a, like, Kyoshi in Avatar state. So she's more of a spirit unit with that kind of tag on her. So that's probably going to be one that we get to see. And I don't know, there's probably room for, like, maybe another Janju if they absolutely wanted to. But it should be pretty exciting. But, like, for me, definitely, I'm the characters I really want. Like, of the characters in the game right now that I don't have, like, Peace Ang, I do really want to get. So if there is another chance to get him, I probably will do that if it's somewhat, like, reasonable. Otherwise, yeah, Mei, Ty Lee, Azula, I definitely want, and the Kyoshi characters I really want, like, complete focus on. Yeah, Jimpa as well. Hopefully we'll see some Jimpa. But yeah, that's all that stuff. So yeah, let me get into some gameplay here. So I switch to game and open this. So yeah, I have my sound off just in case you're wondering. The game on the sound on the game is off here, just to avoid any potential messing around with that. But yeah, I haven't really done much. I did some of the absolute basics, I think, earlier on, but I really haven't done anything. So the weekly reset has happened, so I can get stuff from the boss battle store. So yeah, here we go. Summon tickets. So I'll just grab them. As you can see, I have so many boss battle coins. So yeah, we're just going to grab all these real quick to get build up my kind of tickets. Yeah, we'll grab these as well. don't need art essences at the moment. All these upgrade materials. I'll grab some peace and chaos stuff while I can, just because they're much harder to get. Like the Boomy boss battle is at least a source of peace stuff, but there's no source of chaos at the moment, because like I think the boss battles that are meant to in the game eventually have chaos haven't been introduced yet. So yeah, just grab all this stuff here. And again, this is one of the key things for like kind of like playing the game, especially if you're free to play or you don't put much money into the game, is you really need to keep track of like all these timers on when like you can actually get more of specific materials and stuff like that. So yeah, Piece of Chaos I know I'm pretty low on. Otherwise, I think a lot of my other upgrade materials I'm pretty good on. Elemental stuff I'm always a little bit behind on, and I don't need any of those at the moment. I do want to highlight this actually. These two in the feature area of the shop, if you haven't already grabbed these and you are going to be pulling for Peace Chaos characters, these two nature stones for Peace Chaos bundles are definitely worth getting, because it's 20 Peace Chaos for 1,500. So you're going kind of like +5 on summons, specifically for Peace Chaos. And then you can buy 4 of this bundle, which is 7 tickets for 500. So that is, what, 3,500 for 48 Peace Chaos pulls, which is definitely really good, because Peace Chaos is kind of tough to get otherwise. The event, actually, I should probably go through this a little bit. The summon banners going on at the moment, that we have the Old Iron Will to Dominate banner and the Warden banner. Now, I'm not bothered with the Warden. He's a very good unit. Like, he is a very, very good unit. But because to me, he is a very low rank character in terms of like notability, I'm not going to spend tickets on him. That's kind of my thing with the Warden. I'm very much like, I like to be good at the game, but if there's just units that I don't really want based on the character, I'm not going to get them. This is an interesting banner. I actually did pulls on this because I don't have many 5-star kind of supports. So I actually pulled on this twice to Pity. It's reasonably decent, because like, when you get to Pity, you get an Old Iron plus a random one of the other 5 units. So you can get stuff pretty nice, and I actually did manage to get, over the course of all those pulls, full copies of Old Iron, because it does have the new kind of Pity kind of system in place, where every time you get to Pity, you get one of these coins, and then you can spend 2 of these coins on any of the 5 stars that you can actually get from this. So Old Iron like actually is available here. And again, the rarest things in this game are not characters, it's 5-star relics and 5-star supports. So like, if you want to be like really, really good, like that's where the focus absolutely is. This is a decent thing. If you need an extra skill coin, it's quite pricey in terms of like things, but if you need an extra skill coin, that is decent. I'm not super focused on the Old Iron set at the moment, just because crit damage is kind of low priority for me, but it's a nice that there is another set in there. Let's see, what was I asked? What's your rank in the arena? My rank in the arena is Fighter 1. So I'm usually hovering in around 2,000 score. This is probably the highest score I've probably ever had in the game right now. But I'm probably not strong enough overall to get like super further than this. It's a challenge. Once you get to a certain level higher up, you start to face the really challenging teams. Like look at this one here, 6,675. That looks like a pretty challenging team, even though the score isn't like crazy. It's pretty rough here. Some of these teams, like that one here, the 4,000 team, the brothers Bokin and Chaos Zhao, that's a menace of a team. Like, you don't want to go up against that. That's pretty tough. This one's a little bit more doable because the brothers are awful to fight against, but Iroh and Zuko, it's just kind of like, okay, once Zuko doesn't like annihilate your team, like you can do stuff against them, but you know that's that. So yeah, what am I doing here? I need some gold, so I'll just quickly do some of these. I will do some battles, but at the moment, just building up my gold, of course. So I'll do that. I'm pretty low on some of these elements as well. Let's see. 39. I think Earth I'm super low on at the moment. 16, yeah. So, what are we doing here? How much do I have? 7. Not too bad. Because you can grind for skip tickets. There's a bunch of places you can like get them from, and there's ways in the adventure mode to like grind them. Because of course the event thing that's coming in the game tomorrow, apparently you can use skip tickets on once you 3-star each of the levels. So that's an interesting one. What else do we have here? The arena hasn't reset yet. There's still a few hours left, I think. Might only be 1 hour. Yeah, the Europe server is, from what I've heard, slightly easier than the NA server, just because there's much less players in Europe. But I think it's growing all the time. But it's still somewhat similar across. It just means that I think, depending on your skill level, equivalent, you'd probably be ranked. I would probably be ranked much lower if I was in the NA server, but this is where I am here. So yeah, there's that. There's some events going on here. They need to definitely fix this. They obviously they gave us the skill coin, I know, because they obviously, whatever way it worked, miscalculated this. They definitely need to get this sorted so that the numbers actually work out properly and stuff like that. But that's that. Oh yeah, I forgot this. While you can, get yourself Prisoner Tyro. And I would definitely recommend getting 6 copies of Tyro, because I think he's actually a really, really good unit. Like, really good. I think I roughly gave this recommendation at some point. Was it in my video or on Twitter? But it's like, it's the freest way to get 6 out of 6 for a character. And he is actually quite good. I just kind of maxed him out here. So you can see he is my 9th most powerful unit. It's his moveset and what he does is actually like pretty good. Especially for one of the more challenging like adventure battles, which I'll do in a second. So of course he has all this stuff. Like, he will be more important later on because of like more outlaw and invasion force allies kind of coming into the game. But like, increases his own max HP. Mastery level 3 is actually really good. Like, you just start throwing standard combos at people. You start stacking Earth Element up on everyone. And because Earth Element blocks debuffs, it's really strong. And then I just got the level 4, so it gives him more survivability. And then this lowers speed on the opponent. This gives fire block, which is good. So a pretty decent defensive unit. Not super fancy, but something pretty good overall. Main criticism for the game: costs too much money to upgrade relics and pets. Definitely, like, I'll just show this myself. Like, even I don't have like that many relic like supports, for instance, like super highly leveled. You can see the highest I have is about 40, just because you're using your money so much elsewhere that like I'd have to put like another like 1 or 2 million gold into like a character just to get them higher. There's definitely some quality of life stuff that the game does need to kind of get to the next level, I think. But yeah, let's do a little bit of adventure stuff. So again, like this is kind of what you need to do like every day, is just kind of get the characters walking the paths, just get the kind of grind kind of going effectively. Just using all your team. I won't do the whole thing here. I want to go to here. I'm not sure everyone knows about this, but the new prison rig area. I think this is the only area in the adventure mode where you can actually grind nature stones. Now, it's a pretty tough, sort of time-consuming grind where it involves using the 24-hour node here. So when you do this, you get this item here, of course, stone supplies, which you can use on the resource node that this fight turns into after you beat it. And that will, every time you beat this fight and then do the resource node, you get 100 nature stones. So it means like that basically every day you can technically get another 100 nature stones just by doing this fight. Now, the problem with this is that this fight is so tricky. I've only just in the last couple of days had a team good enough to do this fight because you're locked into Aang era and you can only use earthbenders. And that's fine for like defensive characters, but like the team you're going up against requires some, pretty hard hitting kind of characters here. So what's going on here? Am I over the limit on arts? No. Why is this happening? Let me just check this. Yeah, so there's some weird bugs in the game like that, where is stuff like that where you kind of occasionally will need to restart. It's something about like characters and where they're used and stuff like that. But yeah, this should work now. Okay, start. Okay, there we go. So there's the team. So yeah, Tyro up front, Prisoner Haru. So this is the one, the Haru you get from the arena. This isn't the kind of summon banner one. This is the kind of grindable one, which I kind of prefer, because there's some weird stuff that the other Haru does that is a bit weird. Boulder over here, I actually have maxed out. So this is like full, like level 70. Art's pretty high leveled up. Everyone is 6 out of 6 in terms of skill coins. I have a support that like is maxed out as well, buffs earth. This is still a very tough battle. I think I've got to a point where I can regularly do it, but it is such a tough combination. The brothers and the warden. The fire soldier here is pretty useless, but just the combo of those three characters together is so difficult to deal with here. But you'll get to see some interesting stuff here. So I find the thing here is that you have to, if you can, focus down Goro, because he's the guy that's going to kill most of your team. But the problem is you have to keep track of the warden and what he's doing to the buffs on your team. So you'll notice the warden just gave invincibility to Goro for like 2 turns. So it's useless to attack Goro now, of course. So you just have to try and break through here and then attack the warden, because you kind of have to leave Juro to last, because you can never. I find like you're just getting murdered by his brother if you try and break through Juro. It's really tricky. But yeah, we'll start off with Haru here. So do this. We blind, of course, do quite a lot of damage as well. With Tyro, we get the defensive block up here, which will give a fire block to Haru in the back row, which doesn't matter too much because it'll mainly be, I think, Goro doing like AoE damage. With Boomy, this part of the strategy with Tyro maxed out, use combos whenever you can involving Tyro, and we can start to spread Earth debuff around, which is really important to deal with this fight. So you can see there the Earth debuff went on everyone, apart from, of course, Goro. obviously. So now we have the boulder. I'm just going to go for the knockdown here with the basic skill. Yeah, so okay, so we got the knockdown. That's pretty good. Which is that's the thing Boulder's very good at. He's probably dead, is he? Nope, survived. Okay. Okay, and now he still has invincibility, doesn't he? Yes, he does. Okay. So yeah, we're gonna target the warden again. There's no point trying to go through the other brother. And you can see with the Haru, his stacks of rage are building up, so he's doing more and more damage. So yeah, fortified stance there because I had 3 stacks of rage. And yeah, we can start to we can start to attack Goro here. He's now open. So once you start to do damage to him, he does take damage like pretty easily, but like it can really get out of control. Like if your units are not leveled up here, this is a disaster, this one. So yeah, what are we doing here? So did we get the... Yeah, we got the victory there. So okay, is that boulder gone? Yes. So then, yeah, the warden just gave himself invincibility. It's gone, though, I think. Yeah, okay, so it's gone. I can still attack the warden. Again, combo here to try and inflict earth debuff, which is kind of the problem with, like, Juro. He's, like, super resistant to debuffs and stuff like that. So this section of the fight just takes ages. And we're just kind of hoping to, yeah, stack up kind of everything that we can. And, yeah, we'll combo again. You can see here, like, we don't have a lot of offense, but also the thing with the Warden is, like, he's super defensive as well. So, yeah, we're just trying to kind of smash through here. I could do this. Okay, so we're starting to get there, yeah. Massive stacks of earth on the Warden. And you'll see, like, Tyro is just kind of standing there. Like, his attacks aren't really doing all that much, but he's just spreading earth debuff around and staying in there. And even if they killed him, of course, there's the invincibility that activates because of the mastery. And then that just lets Haru kind of build up the rage in the background as well. So there's that. And then, yeah, we can start just attacking Juro here. He's not offensive enough to kind of get through us, so this is just going to be quite a while just trying to break through. Did I miss the unboxing? Yes. How's the figurine? Both of them are very good. So I'll show it again after I do some gameplay here. But here is the Katara. Very nice. And the Zuko. Also very, very nice figures. Especially for the price that they are. Like, what, 50 each? That kind of mid-range kind of figure price point. Very good. Especially the Katara. I think the Katara is probably the better figure. Not because the Zuko is bad. I just think it's just a very, very, very good Katara figure. Okay. Just building up here. And I still need to unlock the final mastery condition for Haru. And actually, I think I said everyone was 6 out of 6. Haru isn't 6 out of 6. I think I'm only 3 out of 6 skill level with Haru at the moment. Okay, so yeah, we're just stacking it up. But like the amount of health he has is kind of crazy. And you'll notice here, like, I'm using negative Jing as much as possible, but I'm not getting the kind of stance change stuff going on here. Yeah, and that's the other thing coming with the next update. I think they added a date on the Discord. August 14th is when guilds are coming into the game. Now, the unfortunate thing about guilds is that it is going to be split based on server. So if I have a guild, it's going to have to be an EU guild, and that creates a bit of an interesting situation, and it's a bit awkward. So I'm just going to see what happens here with this, where, I don't know, maybe it might be kind of just easier for me to just kind of be part of a different guild and go about it that way. Because I know that kind of like I'm in kind of one of the guilds that like includes some of the kind of higher level players, and the plan does seem to be that like, yeah, a lot of the super high up people on the list are just going to be in like the same guild, so it's going to be a bit of an odd one anyway. So yeah, there is that battle, and you can see here you get some decent stuff for this, but nothing crazy. You do get the 3-star accuracy set, which is decent, but you'll note here that it will change now. Okay, yeah, it will change now to be the resource node, and then when we use this, we obviously have to use one of the stone supplies, but we get 100 nature stones. And this isn't only the first time through; it's every single time if you have it. So I think I have a few of these built up, so I can do this now kind of regularly and grind to get kind of what I need here. So yeah, we'll just get that, and you'll note that it's just, yeah, that's what I got. It just immediately switches back to the fight, and you just do the fight, do the resource node, and you get another 100 stones. So I think I have about 10 of that material from over here built up. It's unfortunate this is a 24-hour node, but like if you just keep doing it, like you build it up eventually. Yeah, so we'll just do Suki. And yeah, I won't waste your time doing all this stuff. I do want to do some boss fights here, just to kind of build up some stuff here. So if we go in here, I quite like my water team that I have. I probably do need to do an exchange here to do a better one. So let me exchange a bunch of this out. So I want to do the 5-star Unagi just to show off my water team. And one more. Okay, activities, boss battles, Unagi, stage 5. So yeah, this is the team. So Kelsong up front, because Kelsong's basic ability can spread water debuff if you have a waterbender on your team. So that's the kind of dynamic there. We have a UA in the healing slot, because I think it's more important for Katara to be protected in the back slot. And also, it's for organizational purposes, I think it also kind of helps to kind of spread the threat, so that people don't want to just immediately take out the UA and stuff like that, because that's the whole point when you're building a team, is like you don't want to make it super obvious of like the order in which people take your team apart. This is what makes some of the like really good teams kind of so threatening, is that like if they don't kill Kelsong, I'll get the wind up and then they can't inflict debuffs. But if they kill him first and then kill UA revives Kelsong. But if they leave Talariktug active, he's going to start countering like crazy and spreading water around, and then Katara will assist with spreading water around. And so that's sort of the idea here. There's also Tagaka could probably fill in the same slot as Katara in terms of spreading water around, but that is the idea of the team. And I have the water element up 20% situation here. So this is you can see it like it's 500,000 versus 200,000, but the Unagi can be a bit of a tricky boss fight if you're not kind of super high leveled, because it's very difficult to keep a lot of debuffs on the Unagi, and it can just do a lot of damage randomly. It can be a tough boss fight, but you'll see here with this setup that the Unagi like is not a threat whatsoever to the team. So I have what is it? The Earth Rumble set on UA. So first turn, everyone gets max HP up, and then straight away I can just heal. So I do this. Someone heals into that max HP. Talarik Tug, when we go into Glacial Cover, heals into the new max HP, and then we can do straight away to activate UA's ability, the Moonlight Aura. We just have to do a combo of UA with another waterbender. So you'll see here, she'll gain the Moonlight Aura debuff. Did it work there? Don't think it did. But anyway, we'll activate that again, and then like when that's up, that will start to kind of spread stuff around as well. What do we do here? Let's go with this. So we'll use Katara's advance. Oh, I don't think I pressed combo, actually. I think that might have been the problem. So yeah. Moonlight Aura activates here. And that buffs the damage of everything water. So yeah. Increased damage dealt by all waterbending allies by 35%. With Kelsong, we'll activate the Living Typhoon. Everyone will get a heal, turn bar increase. And then we can kind of keep going. And then if we are getting low in HP, I can just use the advanced skill here, and this will give everyone skill nullifier. So very defensive. Everyone gets skill nullify, which you'll see here. Everyone dodges the big attack, and we can just kind of gradually incorporate UA into the combos to keep the Moonlight Aura up, and we're doing like tons of damage. Nothing's really at risk. Kelsong can now use his kind of advanced skill where he does the... It's a bit of a funny animation, but I like it. So yeah, I'll just do some basic attacks now. Hailstorm Hook. And you can see like super easy stage 5 victory there on what can be a somewhat challenging opponent. But yeah, no fancy relics there or anything like that, arts. So that's fine. And I don't think there's really any other things that I need. I'm a little low on Zuko coins, but I'm not in too much of a rush. Like I have 5 for next time. Still waiting for the monthly reset for the nature stones and stuff like that. What else do we have here? Timelines. We have... Yeah, I'm still waiting for the Peace Chaos tickets to come off the monthly timer here. So I have some of them built up. It is a little bit unfortunate in that like I wish you got a little bit more of these so you could actually spend them a bit more often on stuff like this. I actually kind of like this relic. I'd like to get it, but like I put myself behind on tickets if I go for it, is kind of the problem. And there's some stuff here, like I like that this part of the Rift event, they added the Lady Tianhai relic and the Cranefish Kite relic in. Kind of nice. And then yeah, I also have my Banyan Grove seed for whenever, yeah, monthly cooldown for the skill token, which I do need. But yeah, I'll try and do some arena here just to see. Don't like the look of any of them. Okay, let's see, what do we have here? Kiyoshi, Masaru, Kiwok, and Zinfu. Nearly 600,000. Okay, Kiyoshi can be a challenge. Masaru can be a challenge. Zinfu's been nerfed enough to where I don't really fear him. And then Kiwok is just annoying rather than like challenging. This one here, Janju. Ooh, don't like the look of that one, because Janju will absolutely annihilate the team. I'll try this. Oh wait. I think I should be fine. What, we've got like 6 minutes for this. Okay, now what team am I using here? Okay, there we go. I'll go with Zhao. Who is it going up against? This is usually my team. It's usually this or this. I usually go with this if the opponent seems very offense orientated, and then this if I feel like debuffs are going to be a problem. This is an awkward one. They have what's the team? Saru. There's only one Firebender. Let's see. Can I do this? My one fear here is if I go in here, my Kelsong's a little slow. Will Masaru just like advance and then basic skill me and absolutely annihilate me, or will I be able to actually get through? I'll switch to Old Iron. 40% attack increase. So I'll do this, and let's see how it goes. Okay, so what's going to happen here? Masaru first. Okay, that's good. Got the counter. I have a counter art set on Zhao. So we get the life steal activated straight away. Okay, he's targeting the Boomy. How bad? Oh, that's not too bad actually at all. So I'll just do advanced skill with Boomy. Okay, I got the imbalanced state. So yeah, Boomy's better attacks are activated. Okay, so I think I'm in control here. So we'll go Living Typhoon with Kelsong. And now, the way, how you pick apart a team. Kyoshi, the way she works is obviously if you attack any of the other teammates, she'll start counterattacking. So if you do attack Kyoshi herself, she doesn't really have the counterattack stuff, basically. So I'll try and just go for the... Okay, there we go. Yeah, just absolutely annihilated Kyoshi. Red Moon is now activated on all of their opponents. So while that's activated, they get like huge debuffs, and Zhao can't die as long as that's on any character. It's kind of unfair, but that's the way it is. Now, Kiwok is going to have her weird like 1 HP kind of thing left. So I'm just going to attack here. Get Masaru out of the way as much as possible. He also has one of those 1 HP things. So we'll use the strongest. We'll get the attack up here. Yeah, okay, so yeah, there's her doing that. I will then... This is a pretty powerful attack, so I'm just going to go combo Gale Force. Will this kill the Zinfu? Yes. And that will get my Talaric Tug activated a little bit earlier. So yeah, we're going to go attack here. Okay, yeah. Saru activates his thing. I will go standard attack, which is doing insane damage. So we kill the Masaru immediately. And then we are just trying to break through Kiwok here. So she'll eventually crack out of this ice in a second. And I can get going. So yeah, we'll just do basic Sweeping Storm. And now she is vulnerable here. So we'll just do... this triple combo, massive damage with Zhao. The Zhao is, I think, kind of unfair a little bit. There are some games where it feels like you're cheating using Zhao, because all you have to do is get a random kill, and even if the whole rest of your team is dead, he just can't be killed so long as you do some damage over the course of a few turns. So that's that. I think the arena is probably going to reset actually in just a second. So I guess this is where I'll end up here. So Fighter 1. Let's see who's been after me these days. Okay, bit better on defense. People still getting through. But you'll notice like it's a lot of similar teams killing me. The brothers, the Warden, Zhao. Like this team. This is an unfair team, I think. Like the Zhao, the brothers, and the Warden all together is just like, no, don't want to deal with that. Absolutely not. So that's that. So yeah, that's my kind of a arena kind of situation. So I'll just claim some of this. Yeah, Rangi. I have Rangi. She's just one of those characters where I feel like there's other characters I need to put skill stuff into. Like I have one more on Kelsong, two more on Blue Spirit, but Rangi's good in certain teams. Like she feels like one of the hardest hitting characters out there. So I do have her in a decent kind of position. Like skill mastery level stuff is all done. With Haru, what's going on here? So yeah, with Haru, I just need to do a few more arena battles using Haru, and then I get this ability, which seems really, really, really good. But yeah, that's that. So let's see, relics. The Fog of Lost Souls. And it's interesting. Like it's an interesting item actually. Permanently reduced damage taken by 22% each time an enemy is defeated. It's like a defensive thing that could be good on Zhao, but like it feels like you don't necessarily want to do anything there. Yeah. Definitely, there are definitely some characters that are just not up to standard. Like I would say Boulder, no matter how you necessarily kind of build Boulder, he just feels stat-wise like well below a lot of characters. Like I know I've built him heavily into defense, but like his core HP is like super low. Like there's obviously the knockdown Earth team that involves him and the other Toph, which is somewhat interesting, but like he's nowhere near as good as like other characters are. Similarly, like some of the earlier characters in the game, like Kyoshi, the Kyoshi warrior here, are not as good as some of the other ones. Who is like an absolutely awful character. Like I think this Zhao is just not very good. The basic kind of 4-star Zhao is not very good. The defense Aang feels like I kind of almost want to build him a little bit, but I just feel like some of these abilities are just not where they need to be. Even when you like factor in all the other stuff that they can do, it just feels like inflict air element on the target if an air element currently exists. Like this character wouldn't be broken if it was just inflict air element. Like even if it wasn't without needing it already. And like there's a few things like that where a lot of characters could use a buff. Yeah, a lot of the Sokka units are not like up to standard. One interesting thing about the Wolf Cove Sokka though is he is the only Invasion Force character in the game. So he actually can work with Tyro's skill here, which is it prevents Invasion Force allies from dying for a turn whenever they gain barrier or fire block. So for later on, like there's a potential sort of like Tyro, Wolf Cove Sokka, something like some of the other characters kind of stuff you can go for. And he's a character I'd build into more if I had a bunch more skill tokens randomly, but I don't happen to have that. Similarly, the Fire Nation Pirate, I actually think I kind of almost want to build a bit of a team based around him. Because I like a lot of the abilities that are based on combos, and like you have him works with combos. The Peace Aang, if I ever got the Peace Aang, would be really interesting with this. The Tyro, of course, and then like maybe put a lot of stuff on another character that builds up focus quite heavily, so we get more of that. Because he seems kind of really good. All the stuff. It's just again, he's a bit of a generic character overall. But yeah, so many of the Zuko's, yeah, I just have no interest in. This, the Komodo Rhino Zuko, the Invader Zuko, they're very, like, meh, pretty much. Same with, like, Juro and stuff like that. It's like, because it was double characters, I didn't really want to go in on them. I have both of them, just cause, but it's kind of an awkward one. Dojo Master feels like a character who could use some buffs. Maybe they'll get some as we go into the expansion on the Dojo Master. And yeah, that probably really is the ultimate kind of answer here. It's like if you have characters, you just eventually at some point will need to level them up, because restrictions will require you to have an Earthbender team. And I think you guys have probably saw it where, like, a few updates ago, like, I just had no Earthbenders in the Aang era leveled up. And that kind of forced, I think apart from Boomy. But then in one of the expansions, you couldn't use Boomy because he's, what is it? He's not considered, like, Earth Kingdom or something like that. Because he has the royalty thing, he doesn't get Earth Kingdom as well. It's a bit kind of awkward. But yeah, I as you can see here, like, I have some stuff like, say, like a water team. Like, there's not enough water, like, bender characters in the game to, like, justify a team. Because, like, so far, like, water benders, we only have, like, what, Katara, Yue in the Aang era, and Pakku and Kiwok. So there's a few of them where, like, it feels like they can't really kind of ask you to do it. Large reason I went for Blue Spirit is just so, like, I have a non-bender character quite high up. Because otherwise I don't really have a lot of non-bender characters high up. It's kind of why May, I think, might be one of my focuses from, like, Ozai's Angels in the upcoming banners, is because I want another good and strong non-bender unit. And then, like, I'm guessing as we go further, like, the likes of Jet, Freedom Fighters, and all these other characters are going to come into the game, which will make a special element a little bit more interesting. Air, again, because of the era restriction, Air is a bit weird, where there's obviously a lot of Aangs. I have Gyatso, but he's a bit of a weird unit in the way he operates. The Youth, I kind of like the Youth and how he works, because, what does he have here? Yeah, skill nullifier after attacking feels like kind of nice. But again, he just feels like way overly... He's like too balanced. He's not good enough is basically, I think, the idea with him. It's just like, it does bending damage to an enemy. They already have to have a debuff. This one gives you debuff. The knockdown is kind of interesting. You know, there's some stuff, but, like, this is kind of weird, like, immune to air element effects. Like, his passive is effectively useless because there's not that many air characters kind of in use, where it's like Mind Aang, just because everyone has the starter Aang, Kelsong, and they're the only, like, air units you'll really see in the arena effectively, because no one's using the defense Aang, and there are just much better units. This Aang is actually a pretty good example of, like, a unit that probably needs, like, a buff to be a lot better. There's some interesting, like, ideas here. It just feels like, why would I ever put, like, 5 skill coins into this character? It's not the Aang I kind of want to use, really. But yeah, there's some interesting ideas for sure. But you know, like I said, I'm interested mainly in, like, the Kyoshi characters. I actually have quite a lot of them, kind of, like, somewhat high level. This Kyoshi, I probably just need to pull the trigger and go 70-70 and try and kind of utilize kind of young Kyoshi a little bit more. I think she actually works quite well. Let's see, what's this? Increased damage, fearful state. Yeah, like, I think this young Kyoshi is a pretty nice unit. So yeah, all that stuff is pretty good. What do we have here? I'm actually really close to getting the skill coin here. I'm always behind. I never do enough battles in the arena mode, but pretty close to that. But yeah, I think that's pretty much everything. These are not worth it. I definitely would say that. I really don't think these are worth it. I don't think I have ever got a 5-star from a 4/5-star support ticket or a 5-star from the relic ticket. And they give you these, like, they treat these like they're gold dust, but, like, the chances of you actually getting the 5-star on these is, like, super low. So I don't think they're in any way worth 600 at all. 3,500 for the character ticket is... It's okay if you need characters, but I really don't think it's great overall. Again, like, this is fine. It's just... what we're heading into, it feels like a waste to use your this many on just a skill token when, you know, tickets are what you need going forward, obviously. So, yeah, these will drop away. We'll get the 2 other banners, and, you know, we'll be in a pretty decent spot. Like, I'm a little low on normal tickets, but obviously it doesn't seem like there's much going on there. The awakening thing, it depends on how good it's going to be, and we'll see from there. I hope they announce sooner rather than later what the specific plans are for Azula. But we, at the very least, I think we should probably know, at least from data mining, probably tomorrow once the update goes live, what the plan is potentially for the Peace Chaos stuff after that. And while I don't usually like to focus too much on the data mine stuff when it hasn't been officially announced, a lot of the times I think with the sort of like literally just the order of what banners are coming out, I think it's important information for players to have. So I'll be a little bit more like open about that. Whereas like, I'm not just going to like just show you guys, for instance, the kind of leaked image of like Father Glowworm in the game right now, even though that's already like out there, which I'm guessing Glowworm is the first raid boss. So that's one of those things. But yeah, so yeah, the arena is on lockdown right now while they calculate everything. And I think probably just wrap it up there. So just close this, close, and I can switch back to this. So definitely exciting stuff. Like, I'll probably do some sort of a video tomorrow when the update goes live, just highlighting kind of what's going on with this, and seeing if, you know, the event dungeon or whatever it's called is as interesting as expected, because I really want to know what the whole idea here is, because I think a lot of people are going to probably end up a little bit disappointed that the 2 characters that like the story stuff is related to seem to be in the banner, whereas I think people were maybe expecting you be able to play the event dungeon about Zuko and Iroh and get Zuko and Iroh. So unless stuff works very differently, I'm not sure what the whole idea is. I can see a lot of people potentially complaining that there isn't a Chaos character in the banner, especially if we maybe do get a kind of crazy banner that is like Mei, Azula, and Ty Lee all in the same one, and they don't have a plan in place to let you choose which character you get. So I hope they fix a lot of that stuff and have it worked out and ready to go. But, you know, I definitely am excited to see what they do with this one. And then the guild stuff as well. At the very least, you know, it's one of those things where it's like, join some guild to get access to like the guild shops and items and stuff like that. And we'll see where we go from there. Anything else? I think there's something else on the website. Yeah, this. There is this fan art contest, of course, that they talk about here. It's a little bit unfortunate because probably the most important part of this is this. It is a contest only open to you if you live in Canada. So, bit of a weird one. And it's like, what does it say here as well? This contest is not sponsored or in partnership with any of this. It is solely executed by Navigator Games. But then it's like, judges will include representatives from Paramount. And it's like, okay, so wait, it's not in partnership, but you have a Paramount person as your judge. Okay. I don't quite fully understand that. I get it from like a legal sense that you can do this and have a more casual, like, which one do you think is better? But it's certainly a bit of a weird one here. Especially if they plan to do more contests, if it just is Canada only. That's a bit crazy. The prizes here being interesting. What is it again? It's, yeah, each winner will receive a custom digital drawing of themselves and their best friend. Valued at approximately 200. So I guess whatever the artist is that does a lot of the kind of stuff. The images that we see in the game will do these pieces of art, which is kind of interesting. So I don't know. At least it's not sort of like maybe like exclusive Avatar Generations merch, which I think a lot of people will be more kind of upset about. This at least seems like a very like kind of personal kind of thing where it's like, oh, if you want that, here's a way to get it. So that's that. But that's probably where I'll roughly end the stream. Plans for next time out. Obviously the August stream, I guess, will be the Legacy of Yang Chen stream. I guess both Yang Chen books together. We'll do the big kind of like spoiler live stream discussion. The plan is probably maybe like the as close as possible to like exactly a month on from the release of the book, whatever like Sunday kind of that falls on. I think it might be like the 20th or something like that. Probably more towards the second half of August. I'll do that stream, plus obviously covering whatever else has happened in the meantime. Otherwise, like with the videos, like the Legacy of Yang Chen chapter analysis videos will continue. We're going to get the podcasts kind of going on that as well, where we'll do like probably the first third of the book in a podcast coming up soon-ish. Probably will need to organize that one soon. Other Republic City video where I cover the adventure that's in the Republic City book. That's one I still have to go through. And I think, like I said on the Republic City video, I will also plan to do a more kind of focused, top 10, 20, like notable bits of details from the book. That one will be probably quite a few weeks away. I don't plan to like start work on that one anytime soon because there's so much else to cover. Like I said, everything hitting this month, of course. But that's the situation there. Let's see. Did I manage to get more channel members? I believe I got at least one extra channel member, which was good. What just happened there? That was weird. We still seem to be going. Yeah, I think I got one extra channel member. And there's always a bonus when I get them. It's always a weird one where I probably should highlight that stuff a lot more, but I kind of always don't want to like annoy people with that stuff as well. But I probably am aware that like I probably don't mention it in enough of my videos. But always trying to find the balance of like I don't want to have like every video just be like 5 minutes of like subscribe, channel membership before we even get into the content. But we work on growing the channel. I suppose in terms of subscribers, I suppose this month has been a little bit better than usual, considering like it's been pretty slow going the last while. We're getting closer. I think like I'm 250 or something like that away from 10,000. Let me actually just check that up. A bit more than 250. Yeah, so 275 exactly away. So, hopefully soon as we keep going. But yeah, working on that. It'll be fun when I finally get there, and it's like the subscriber count is 5 figures. After all this time building up to it. Nothing will change, of course, when I get there. It'll just be like milestone hit. But yeah, otherwise, is there anything else I need to mention in particular? Like, is there any news like expected kind of recently? I'm almost like behind myself on the news. Just kind of trying to keep track of everything this month. Kind of like, because the Azula comic's still quite a bit away. I'm guessing like preview pages will drop at some point soon-ish. But even that feels like, when will that be? Where will that be? Finally people get a look at that book. Because I'm always like, oh, I'm done. I've done my discussion on Azula, but no, I still have a spoiler discussion to record, which reminds me, I should probably check when my review copy expires. I'm pretty sure I checked, like it's either on the release date or very close to the release date when I think the review copy expires. So I've got some time to get back around to doing that kind of spoiler review before the book comes out, and so I'm kind of prepared for all that stuff. I'm excited to see what people think of that comic when it comes out, because that has got quite a bit of like focus on the channel. A lot of people kind of wanting to, of course, check that one out. Of course, a lot of questions, a lot of people asking questions and wanting to know some of the finer details of that book. Kind of difficult to kind of navigate spoilers because of the type of book that it is. But it's... I was pretty happy with my review and the way I approached it and the way I kind of got it across, because it is a full character focus book and it's kind of tricky to talk about without getting into the details. But I think based on what I've seen from the comments, I think people get the idea with the book, for sure. But the Azula fandom is just weird at times. Like there's some very skewed opinions among people when it comes to Azula, where you have some people who are over the top sympathetic towards the character. There are some people who are a bit too, she is a villain, she needs to go down type thing. Whereas I think the book takes a more nuanced approach. So, either way, some Azula fans will be annoyed at it, but I think with my kind of nuance, kind of in the middle, kind of take on the character, it hit all the beats I wanted it to hit. Is kind of, I think, the main point like I would get across. It's just all about like, do they have a bigger plan in place for the character? But we'll see how it goes. Yeah, their whole review copy thing is kind of weird, in that like you don't really get any feedback about like what makes for a good review request or anything like that, because what was it like? I think I requested a review copy of the Dragon Prince puzzle box book. And I just got flat out refused for that. Now, I think it's because my setup is like very much in the direction of like Avatar reviewer and stuff like that. So I'm guessing because I don't exactly have a super focus on Dragon Prince, they didn't like give me the approval there. Whereas I think Dark Horse, I guess, are like, yep, you review the books, so go ahead. So it is a very weird one there, because like every time I submit one of those review copy requests, it's like, what am I meant to say? So I'm just kind of like, I have a YouTube channel, I review the books. I think people would like to see me review the book, and it seems to work. So I just kind of go with what's worked up to now. And it's kind of... just seems kind of automatic at the moment, but I'm guessing you do have to have some history as a reviewer, but I don't really know exactly how it works. But yeah, like it just speaks to the idea, I suppose, with the Azula comic that like I think everyone thought they'd treat this one super like importantly and secretly, when it's just like, actually no, it just went up the exact same as any other book at roughly the same time as any other book, and they're not super precious about it, because like even the whole like spoiler thing is like they don't really give you any like exact like instructions when you get the review copy. It's just like, give us a review. So it's a it's a bit of a weird situation, but it's worked so far. So that's, I think, pretty much everything. Does anyone have any final like questions or things they want to see me discuss before we end the video? Yeah, like I definitely agree with that. The idea of like yeah, will the other comics try and kind of do what the Azula comic feels like it does, which is sort of put the character in a kind of nicer position to work with for like an animated thing? Is that going to be how they utilize some of the other comics? I'm not sure. Like it depends on like what the importance of the Iroh June comic is, if any, and then what other character they choose to do next. I think based on what they said, it's probably likely to be another kind of one-off character that they maybe come back to a bit. So we'll see what goes on there. Netflix Avatar. I suppose there's not too much else to say because there's pretty much like literally been no news since the last kind of batch where we got the first look and some of the initial stuff that came out then. I guess it's just kind of unfortunate that like they might have wanted to do some stuff but couldn't because of all the strikes going on. I still think it looks okay, and like it doesn't really change my opinion too much either way, the first look that we've seen, but we just need to see more and finally see what's actually happening with it. But yeah, it's kind of been unfortunate with that. There's definitely some weird organization going on where like Quest for Balance. Like, does anyone have any idea what kind of went on with the announcement of Quest for Balance, where it feels like they gave it this kind of weird like half announcement, and then it's kind of almost been ignored that like that it's actually out for pre-order and that like the release date was announced, but I still don't think it's available for like pre-order digitally anywhere, and it's like under 2 months away. So there's some unusual stuff going on with that game, even though I'm still kind of interested in it. Like, I'm definitely going to get it. So there's that. I have to see if they can manage coordinating their books with the release of the movie. Yeah, that's the other thing, because there was a rough comment from like New York Comic Con last year where like it was something along the lines of like, I think someone asked them rather directly like, what's the exact coordination with Avatar Studios, and they're like, we can't really talk about it, but like it almost kind of alluded to the fact that like there maybe are publishing plans that are meant to tie in more directly with like the bigger Avatar Studios stuff, which of course we've never kind of really explored too much, because back when like Korra was airing, it was kind of just the case that like the comics were coming out. Like The Promise to Search the Rift, like they just came out and we just happened to also have the show running at the same time. But now that like Avatar's expanded so much more since then, there's kind of almost the expectation that like they'll use publishing to actually lead into it, that like we'll kind of get like a prequel comic or something like that ahead of the movie, because there's probably a little bit of setup stuff to do with the characters, but also like, do they want to do that and kind of maybe almost spoil the kind of debut of the characters when they're older in a comic ahead of time, or will they wait until afterwards? How much of that stuff is actually going to happen? And like on the merchandise side of things as well, like of course had some figures here, but merch has been all over the place this year. That also kind of needs to be said, that there hasn't been more of them announced. Have McFarlane just stopped doing Avatar? They haven't said anything. Loyal Subjects, there's not been any announcement on new merchandise there. Only really Diamond Select suddenly deciding to kind of start up again has kind of given us really any hope. And then like Korra merchandise is kind of like nowhere basically right now, where sure, Dark Horse did the kind of deluxe, made to order type Korra that was much more expensive, but there's still basically no mass retail Korra merch. Like U2's, I guess, but like even the fact that like say like Funko have kind of disappeared a little bit, not really sure. So the big thing is probably going to be, after all of these years, will they finally time and do merchandise correctly for Avatar, where there is actually like a new thing out and they have merchandise to go along with it. Because obviously with Avatar, they went big early on and then stopped right as the fandom got huge, and so they badly mistimed the merchandise there. With Korra, they basically didn't do any merchandise, so there's an expectation that like they actually get it right this time out, and hopefully that is the case, because like at the very least there's the idea of like the soundtrack releases will be happening over the coming years. That's an exciting thing from a collector's point of view. Hopefully when Avatar Studios is finally able to talk about what they're doing more openly, it maybe opens the door for the publishers to do the same, maybe, and that helps things to get to a better point as well. So just waiting and hoping a lot of this stuff kind of comes together, because we do have some nice stuff. Like I think the Legends RPG material is actually quite interesting. It will be really helped if it was backed up by like other material elsewhere. That's kind of I think what we're waiting for here. We'd like to see the comics able to tell stories in the Roku era, in the Kyoshi era, Yangchen. We'd like to see obviously novels maybe be a little bit more regular, and just like Avatar Studios as well show the case that they're doing multiple eras as well. The communication thing is a bit of an issue in terms of like right now there's like no fandom relationship between Avatar Studios and the fandom. Do we expect that to like hugely improve? Like how big of a change is it actually going to be when they can talk about it? Because like when they're finally like actually openly talking about the movie, like it feels like there has to be, like we've talked about for years, like some sort of a website, the social media stuff. They'll either have to have a few new accounts or like evolve the ones they currently have, and I just kind of show the plan a little bit better. I don't know what's the kind of correct way to do it. Like I'd love to see a coronation-like thing happen again. That was something kind of people could get behind, because right now it feels like if you want Avatar news, the best source is probably like a fan collecting all the news together, like myself. Whereas like you won't get everything by following the official accounts. So all of that stuff, we just kind of need to wait and see kind of what happens with that. But I don't know, like there'll be a certain point at which it's just like, if you're working on like multiple projects, like when we finally have like the movie's on the verge of coming out, they've announced the first series, they've announced the first like mini series or spin-off, it feels like you need to be better on that stuff to direct people to what's actually going on. Already like fans are confused about like novels, comics, extra material. So it's not helped the fact that like things aren't too complicated right now, but they make it seem really complicated right now. Let's see. Pretty sure Coronation still owes me a poster. Probably. They certainly had some issues, because like the only reason I have my Coronation stuff is because Jordan, who like owns and ran Avatar: The Last Airbender online, let me get the stuff sent to him, and then he sent it to me, because I think they only shipped to America for that stuff. So that was a bit of a problem with Coronation, of course. And so yeah, hopefully things are a little bit more international as we kind of go forward with that as well. Yeah, the book 1 and 2 gap for Korra was definitely kind of rough. it was obviously the biggest gap between Korra. We at least had a little bit of coronation stuff there as they restarted again, but the expectation probably is that won't happen here because they'll be working on so many different things. There'll be something on the verge of coming out. What's this? Rumor today for a possible pro-bending spin-off. It would certainly be cool, but rumor source. Because obviously, like everyone probably notes, like, when was the last time we heard an Avatar Studios rumor? Like, Avatar News hasn't had anything in quite a few months at this point. So everything seems to have dried up when it was getting a bit like, okay, we're learning a little bit more. Now there's nothing. So what's going on with everything? But yeah, I'd love to see something more pro-bending focused. I think there's so much room to work with there. But yeah, that's just the thing with Avatar's kind of studios news. Is just like, at this point, like, everything is just like all over the place. Hasn't been anything in a while. But like, that's the thing. Like, New York Comic Con this year will be basically 2 years to the movie. And it feels like this is sort of the time when they need to start, because I don't know, is everyone kind of in agreement on the idea of sort of like SDCC next year? They kind of have to talk. And it's maybe a bit of a problem if they're still not saying anything at SDCC next year, where we're like, what, a year and a couple of months away from the movie at that point. Because they can't wait until SDCC 2025. Then there's no way they can do that, where they're only like, what, 3 months ahead of the thing coming out. They have to start promotion basically, at the very least, in the gap between kind of New York Comic Con 24 and SDCC 25. But it kind of has to be like SDCC and NYCC 24 are where they really start doing their stuff. Because otherwise, like, there's not really anything. Like, yes, you have your Paramount events, which probably we should be more focused on as we go forward for the next while. But I don't know. That's the big thing. It's like, because we also wonder, like, there's a chance with Avatar Studios that they actually do announce stuff like themselves, and like they maybe really open up a stronger communication. But who knows? What was the gap between Korra's first con and Korra airing? Oh God. Well, Korra, we had the first announcements like 2010. That's when that first like image came out, and we got the announcement that there is a sequel series coming. It was like 2010, so it was like about a year and a half before the initial air date, which was meant to be in 2011. Then it got delayed into the April 2012 date it actually was. So they were like a year and a half before like potential launch. Ended up being more like 2 with where it actually came out. But I don't know, we're in a little bit of a different spot here because we actually have sort of much earlier announcements and stuff like that. So definitely awkward. Podcast with okay. Yeah, like the expectation definitely is that like when Braving the Elements comes back, that they have a direct source themselves to announce news, to have people on to communicate with fans directly. I don't know if you want to make it the main source of news, but it's certainly a way to get the voices out there in a sort of controlled way, if that's the way you want to do it, is on the podcast, because you have like the hosts kind of work for you, so like you have that set in stone, and that's certainly a way to do it if they want to do it that way. Because that kind of seems to be the positioning for like Janet Varney and Dante Bosco, is like they are the hosts of Avatar. Obviously, it seems like Dante will be maintaining his role. Someone else going to do Korra. A little bit unfortunate, but it's an interesting thing to think about. Which obviously what makes me wonder, like, at that point, like, if Dante's kind of working on whatever movies he goes involved in or whatever, might there be a time when it's like Janet on her own doing the podcast? I don't know. There's some interesting chance for some things to happen there. Because I do think they will get confirmed for the next season. It's just the awkwardness around like all the strikes and stuff happening is very tricky at the moment. But definitely communication needs to improve. That's probably just the big thing across the board. Is Avatar feels a little bit disorganized right now, and in a way, if not for kind of how passionate the fandom remains, I'm not sure if they'd really have much hype necessarily building up to whatever kind of happens next. Like, I think it very much is the fandom themselves keeping things alive at the moment, with minimal kind of stuff still coming out, as we can kind of see. We just have to hope that things really do get better. But it just feels like the comics are not able to deliver what they probably need to anymore. But hopefully, like, they sort out like the novels and whoever's up next on them, and we can get going. But like, at least we have stuff like the soundtrack coming soon. It's going to be very exciting here. It's kind of awkward, like, cause in a way, like, what sort of a video do I do on the soundtrack when it comes out? Because like, that's going to be an awkward video because I can't really play the music because of like copyright and fair use and stuff like that. But we'll see. Well, there'll be something about it at the very least. Don't claim to be an expert music and analyst though. That's that. So yeah. Any final topics here, and I'll kind of wrap this one up. Yeah, I suppose there's some sort of opportunity for a video just like highlighting like my favorite tracks and just doing some sort of more analytical kind of based video, kind of highlighting which tracks are which from the old soundtrack listings and what they are now. Is there anything they missed out on, that sort of thing. But it is going to be very, very exciting. Like, that's like, I don't know, what way do you want to phrase that? That's like, was it 18 or 15 years in the making, depending on if you go between like the start or end of Avatar. That's how long we've been waiting for the soundtracks of these shows. So very, very long awaited. And I like that you can see like how like excited Jeremy and Brian are, and that makes me wish like they were able to maybe do more of a big thing about it, because you get the impression that if like they were able to be there at the convention, like Brian and Jeremy, they would have had like a huge exciting time announcing that in front of everyone. But I still hope they can maybe do something more kind of video for the fans to highlight that stuff. But yeah, like I said, next stream will be in August later on, to cover Yang Chen. Single sounded amazing. Can't believe we're not getting just a dump of the old tracks. Probably going to sound even better. Yeah, that's the big thing. Like, they full on like re-recorded everything, and there's like expanded pieces and stuff like that. So, that's the big thing here. And obviously, like the problem I think was that they couldn't just like dump the old tracks, because the ones that are on YouTube are just like, a lot of them are almost like fan edits, and like they're not in like amazing quality. And then I don't think they even had like decent like originals to kind of work off, so they basically had to re-record them to make it happen. But that's the success of it, and I guess that's why it's took quite a while, and it's why it will take a while for the book 2, 3 stuff to happen. I did want to record though. Will they do that? Will they re-record any of that? or will that be in good enough quality to just like release? Seeing as they've already done a release, but they'll probably re-release book 1. There's a few tracks they didn't cover, so there's probably a need to do a maybe expanded book 1 as well. But Korra especially, like it feels like we have such a inability to even like list each track. Like we really only have like names for like 3 or 4 tracks from Korra that aren't book 1, so that's the big thing there. But yeah, so we'll be back for this August stream about Yang Chen, but that has been the stream for July. Thanks everyone for coming out to watch it and cover it and stuff like that. Let's see, is there a Korra era in Generations as a final question? There will be a Korra era in Generations. She's obviously like listed on the kind of Generations image and stuff like that. She's included there. There will be Korra characters. I don't think they've officially announced it, but I have a heavy feeling that like Korra is probably the next era coming to the game. So Korra's coming. There's just no Korra characters yet in the game, but they will be adding that. So yeah, thanks for coming out, and bye everyone.